And welcome into the Tuesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. And we are presented by Green Ventures Landscaping for homes and businesses that want to stand out, not blend in. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com. We got the hardest working man in sports with us who may or may not have a phone. You never know. You always got to check. Joe Rexrode, ladies and gentlemen, fresh off a late night appearance at the national championship game in Indianapolis. Joe, how we doing? How we feeling this morning?
Present.
I am present and accounted for. I'm here.
Bueller.
Nice. How excited are you to be, I would assume, coming home today?
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I'm still a long way from that.
Yeah, you are.
But yes, I'm excited.
At some point today, though, Rexrode will be back in the great state of Tennessee, which he might need GPS to figure out how to get back there. Ian, how we doing? What's going on?
Good morning. Yep, did not stay up as late as Joe, so was wondering if he'd hop on here, if we'd be on if we'd be on time this morning. But yep, right on time as usual.
Unfortunately.
So, but yeah, I watched most of the first half, or all the first half. Some of the second half. Not much of the Preds. But doing good, thanks. Happy Tuesday, folks.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. We got a lot going on the show today. Gentry Estus from the Tennessean will be with us at 8 o'clock. We'll get into a bunch of different things with Gentry. Looking forward to that. We'll have the rant later in the program. We will get into the Preds and the Kings last night coming up here in just a few minutes. Big game last night, another big game tonight coming up for the Predators. We will get into all of that. But we do begin on the national championship game. Michigan wins 69-63 in a game that was not necessarily the world's greatest display of offensive basketball. Michigan shot 38% from the field. UConn shot 31% from the field. So it wasn't a great shooting night for either team last night, Joe, but Michigan pulls it out. They get it done. The line was 6.5 heading into the game. So UConn, those pesky Huskies, they cover, but ultimately not enough. Michigan wins it, and they cap off just really an impressive tournament run, one of the more impressive tournament runs that I've seen. And even though they didn't have their best stuff last night, and give UConn credit for that, 69-63 the final, and Michigan is your national champion. Joe, you were there for it. What did you make of how that one shook out last night?
Yeah, it was nasty. I guess somehow you're sitting there at the end, and it's like, oh, so this is close, kind of, and UConn actually kind of has a chance, and yet you really didn't think they did. I mean, they're shooting a 3 down 4 with 17 seconds left. So, you hit that, and you're at least in the 15 seconds, and you're fouling Michigan. And potentially you foul them, they hit 2, and you have a chance to tie. And as soon as that came off Alex Karaman's hands, I was like, yeah, that's way off, and that's what it was. Again, a lot of credit to UConn for being tough. The offensive, they had 20 plus offensive rebounds in that game against Michigan. Very hard to do. It's the only reason that it wasn't just a complete blowout. But these teams were 11 for 48 from 3. In this season and era of beautiful offensive basketball, of all these, Michigan had scored 90 plus in all 5 of its games. So many high-scoring games. The offensive efficiency is off the charts. You have 11 for 48, 22.9%. The only game worse, and for people, it wasn't that long ago, but for people who remember, Butler UConn in 2011, 22.7%, the worst ever. And that game, which was 53-41 UConn final, was one of the worst basketball games I've ever seen. Just horrific. Absolutely atrocious. Just awful. And so it's just like, so you get that, you get no really good games in the Final Four. You end up with, and I was arguing with a coworker on this last night. I wrote a colleague. It just wasn't a very good NCAA tournament. Like, I'm sorry, but it just wasn't. But it was a great team in Michigan. Just a dominant championship team. I think one of the best, just like UConn 2 years ago. Like, both of them are teams that like will be brought when you say, okay, what's the best champion, whatever, what's the best modern champion, what's the best, the best champions, you're going to bring this team up. It was truly a special team.
Well, Joe, as you know, it's not always the case. Matter of fact, in this particular tournament, it's probably frequently not the case where the best team ends up winning, right? I mean, so many things can happen in this tournament, and so many breaks have to go your way, and that's what's part of what makes it such a great tournament and so popular. And yay, let's expand this sucker. But that's part of what makes it so great. Is kind of how difficult it is to win it and how many things have to go right. Joe, it was pretty clear, I think, that the best team in this tournament won the tournament, which, again, is not always the case where that happens. But Michigan, pretty clearly, I think, the best team in the country, and they end up walking away with the championship here. So, in some ways, we talked about the Cinderella part of this, but I always kind of appreciate when the best team ends up winning the whole thing. Like, I think that's that needs to happen probably more than it does in the world of sports. And Michigan, to me, pretty clearly the best team throughout all this.
Yeah, and it's good that we got to see, they were the third seed or the third one, but it's good to see, we got to see them play Arizona. So let there be no doubt, right? I mean, yeah, I guess you could argue like Duke did beat Michigan on a neutral site. So, were we robbed of Duke Michigan as a great title game? I get, you could look at Duke's injuries too and say maybe they were the best if they were whole. But yeah, I mean, look, certainly Michigan, at least one of the two best teams at their very best. All three of those teams were flirting with KenPom numbers that were historic all year. So. And like you said, in this tournament, I don't think there's any doubt they kind of struggled with Howard, funny enough, in the first round after they lost to Purdue in the Big Ten. It's
everybody knows you got to watch out for Howard.
That's right. But it's funny. I mean, teams sometimes come in off a bad loss and you wonder about them, or teams come in super hot and then all of a sudden they just immediately flop, like Wisconsin. But once they got into the tournament and got rolling, yeah, absolutely the best team. And, Yaxel Lendeborg was not all himself last night either. And yet Elliot Cadeau, man, I mean, that's just, I voted for him, and I'm glad he got MOP because he really was just a guy who, whenever they needed something, he did it. For as great as they are up front, without him playing at a very high level, that's just not the same team.
Yeah, for sure. And, I just want to be the first one, Joe, to congratulate the Big Ten. We talked last week about how their run of dominance was about to start, even though we were a year removed away from the SEC having the greatest basketball conference of all time. But the run of dominance now underway, Joe, for the Big Ten. Officially, one of their teams has actually won a national championship for the first time since the year 2000. Congratulations, Big Ten. Way to go.
Yeah. I was in this city 26 years ago when Michigan's rival won the championship. It's been a lot of chances since then for the Big Ten. They finally got one done, and yeah, it's been exaggerated. It probably will be a little bit now in terms of the Big Ten and compared to the leagues. But I mean, look, there are some things that have changed to help the Big Ten without question. It's again worth remembering that 1 year ago the SEC won this thing and had two teams in the Final Four and had way more overall dominance during the season and during the tournament than the Big Ten did this year. So, next year, tell me the Big Ten will be the best league or the SEC will be the best league, Big 12. I mean, I'd believe any of the three. I mean, even the ACC. I mean, I don't know. Michael Malone may come in and go nuts in the portal, and it's kind of a interesting hire there, but you just don't know. It's just, I mean, we don't know what a bunch of these teams are going to have or lose. A bunch of that is happening today. So it's all that stuff is a little bit overblown, but it's certainly for the Big Ten. I know their commissioner was out there last night at courtside celebrating and concocting dumb playoff proposals. So congrats to the Big Ten.
I mean, on the men's and women's front, I mean, UCLA and the Big Ten getting it done, which still is just
Yeah.
So weird to think about. It's like, oh yeah, UCLA is a Big Ten school now. Cool.
Maybe someday to bring back glory to the Atlantic coast, like Stanford can win it
Yes.
all. The Atlantic Coast Conference will celebrate Stanford.
All of the Atlantic Coast will celebrate.
Yeah, exactly. They'll have to go to the Pacific Coast to celebrate, but they'll be celebrating the Atlantic Coast.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We're off and running on Robby and Rexrode. We'll take your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The Preds in action last night against the LA Kings, and they're back at it tonight against the Ducks. We'll break down what happened in last night's game, give you the latest odds after the result of last night's game. That's coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Preds in action last night against the LA Kings. They lose 3-2 in a shootout. So chalk up another overtime appearance for the LA Kings. They did win this one, so that's good for them. But my goodness, they play a lot of games that go into overtime. They're still on 19 regulation wins this year. But LA gets it done in the shootout, which brings the standings, Joe. They are now 1 point up on the Preds. They're at 83 points. Preds are at 82 points. Both of them have 5 games left. And this, Joe, is where blowing a 3-0 lead and I guess it was a 4-1 lead in that game. A 4-1 lead against LA last week and letting them come back to tie that and get it to overtime comes back to bite you, because had you just won that game in regulation, you'd still be tied with them with last night's result, and you'd still have the tiebreaker because of regulation wins, and you'd be in. But now they're at 1 point up on you. And the math last night with the shootout, they are now down, according to moneypuck.com, the Predators are down to a 26% chance to make the playoffs. And it was just a game last night where they started slow. It was basically the complete opposite of how they've started the last two. They, the first game against LA and on Saturday against San Jose, they started hot. They're down 1-0 after one period last night. And I think they mustered up 4 shots on goal in the first period. So not a great start for the Predators last night. Stamkos scores. He ripped one on the power play for his 39th of the year. Yossi with a goal. So he had a goal and an assist in the game last night, and that's good to see. But ultimately, just not good enough from start to finish in that game. And here they are, 1 point out of a playoff spot with 5 games remaining. And the math says a 26% chance now to make the playoffs, Joe Rexrode.
Well, not great. Obviously, you were asking a lot from this team to go out there and live out west for a while, bounce back and forth between the northern Cali and southern Cali, and get a lot of stuff done. It's just too bad that you couldn't have gotten this one. Obviously, certainly still a chance, and immediately a huge one, and probably,
gotta win.
So if they win, if they don't win tonight, what's that 26 go down to?
It's not good. Yeah, you
11?
gotta win. Yeah,
it's like super low.
Yeah, they gotta win. Tonight, it's very simple tonight. Like if you've got to, and part of, people have asked the question, why is it such a big difference in percentages compared to LA's 1 point up on them? So why are the percentages that different? But number one, there's not a whole lot of time left in the season, so that's probably the main thing. But the other thing is, you look at LA's schedule here, and LA has Vancouver on Thursday. Tough game, with Edmonton coming in Saturday on the last part of their homestand. And then they've got Seattle, Vancouver, and Calgary again. It's not exactly murderer's row that LA is going up against down the stretch here. So that's a big part of it. And look, the Predators, they've got Anaheim tonight on the road. They've got Utah on the road coming up Thursday. They got Minnesota at home Saturday. They got San Jose next Monday. The bottom line is the Predators' schedule from just the quality of opponent, even though it's not an incredibly difficult schedule, but it is more difficult than LA's is, with Vancouver remaining on theirs twice down the stretch in the next 5 games.
Yeah. Look, this happens a lot, a Vancouver, a Chicago, who is sitting there with lovely 70 points. They'll rise up and win a game like that. They're playing loose, and you got some young guys up, and who knows? But still, you'd feel a lot better if they were playing, obviously a good team, but a team with something at stake. So to count on the 52-point Canucks to get one there is tough. So then if you're counting those, that is 4 points. It gets tight. It gets tough. And again, it's like we've been saying, it's like they're in the playoffs. Well, now tonight, they actually really that's what they are, right? This is a playoff game.
Yes. By the way, I guess I've found the number here. Last night was the 32nd game that the LA Kings have played that have gone to overtime. 32. That's almost half the season that they've played
Unbelievable.
where games have gone to overtime. So, like, I look at them, I still don't think they're that good, but they are, to their credit, they find a way to get games to overtime and pick up points that way. They have 19 regulation wins.
Yeah, that's
That's dangerous for the playoffs, though. That's not a great recipe
not a
if
great
you're the
recipe.
Kings.
Yeah.
I mean, you do not want to be playing for playoffs and overtime.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you also don't want to be playing when everybody else is playing 82 games. They've played 100.
Yeah.
And there's no shootouts, so can't win those.
Yeah, no,
That's right.
Not gonna be winning shootouts in the playoffs. I saw that stat. It's amazing to me. 32 games that have gone to overtime. But that's if you're a Predators fan, that's what gives you, I guess, some hope. Is you look at down the stretch here and you're like, I still don't think LA is all that good. But the flip side of that is they find a way to just grind it out and get it into overtime and pick up points. So, yeah, I mean, what you really need here, I mean, you need to be, if you're a Predators fan, rooting for Edmonton on Saturday to take down LA. And you're hoping that Vancouver, in one of the two games they play, can sneak up and beat them in regulation. That's what it is, right? Like, you need the Vancouver to sneak up and beat them in regulation. And then we'll see on the Seattle and Calgary front. But if the Canucks could get one of them against LA, maybe you got a shot coming down the stretch here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of thing. That's the type of thing. And it's just, again, it happens all the time that the game that you're sure, the team that you're vying with, or you look at on your schedule like, okay, well, that one is an easy one. It ends up being, just a team playing totally free, totally loose, and you get a weird tip. I mean, like stuff like that can easily happen. But again, you still would just rather the schedule not be what it is.
Yeah. So tonight you got Anaheim. I would assume it's going to be on in net, and this is for your backup goalie. It's a lot of pressure, but this is a game you got to have. Like you've got it. The mindset tonight, if you're the Predators. And look, to this point, you're talking about 6 available points on the road trip. They've gotten 5 of them. So it's been a good trip for the Predators to this point. But this one, like, you're just looking at the math and the schedule coming up and time's running out. Like the mindset basically has to be, this is do or die tonight if you're the Predators. Like, you got to find a way on a second half of a back-to-back to go out there and pick up 2 points. And frankly, it doesn't really matter if it's regulation, overtime, shootout, whatever. Just find a way to get 2 points tonight if you're the Predators. It's really as simple as that.
Yeah, and of course, Anaheim sitting here dead even, with the Oilers. So there's incentive, although I don't know that, I mean, I guess because basically it's probably going to be, well, it's 2 of those 3 teams are going to play each other, Ducks, Knights, Oilers. I don't know that it even really matters all that much to get the wild card. Right. I guess you'd prefer that, right? But it's not like you're all that. I guess if you're the Ducks, you wouldn't want to be in like a 2-3 with the Oilers, right?
Probably not.
Like that might be the one that you would. Win, you win, and you get the division, and you can avoid them. So yeah, Preds are going to be playing a team that, although they've lost 5 in a row, has a lot of incentive.
They have a lot of incentive. There's a lot of talent there. But this is a game if you're the Predators. Like, it's, I talked about it a lot last week. There's a lot of talent in Anaheim, a lot of young talent in Anaheim. This is a game where you need to kind of jump on them on that standpoint. And we'll see if they can hold off former Predator Mikhail Granlund tonight. Guy just keeps buzzing.
Probably not.
Buzzing around the league out there. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. Preds lose in a shootout last night to the LA Kings, setting up what is, in my opinion, a must-win game for them tonight against the Anaheim Ducks. We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Preds lose last night in a shootout. They're now 1 point out of a playoff spot with the LA Kings just in front of them. And Preds are back at it tonight on the second half of a back-to-back, taking on the Anaheim Ducks. Let's head back to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Steve and Franklin to the program. Steve, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys. With this being such a big game tonight, as well as Saros is playing, is there any way possible that he would go with Saros again tonight, even though it's a back-to-back? I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, Steve. I mean, I think there's a chance. Yeah, like I'm not saying that there's no chance that wouldn't happen. I do think that Annunen has played well enough, Joe, where look, my guess is after tonight, Saros is probably going to get the rest of them, right? Like he's probably going to get the definitely the one on Saturday against Minnesota. He'll get the rest of them down the stretch. So I think Annunen has played probably, like if you just go look at the numbers, and people have done this in the NHL, when you go your starting goalie 2 days in a row, the numbers on that second day aren't very good. And it's not just a UC Saros thing, that's an everybody thing. Like just conventional wisdom tells you it doesn't really work out great when you decide to do that. So I'm not saying that they won't, because to Steve's point there, Joe, I mean, I'm sitting here calling this a must-win game tonight. If it's a must-win game, maybe you want, your best goalie in the game. So I understand the thought process. I would just be surprised if they do it because of how well Annunen has played for them lately. I think this is a situation where you probably just got to trust that your backup goalie, who's played pretty well for you, is going to give you a chance to win. And this is one of those games where you need your Steven Stamkoses, your Philip Forsbergs, your Roman Yossi's, Ryan O'Reilly's, etc., to realize the situation in front of them and get out there and play whatever the best version of their game is tonight.
Yeah, I think if it was an issue, backup goalie, or what just wasn't as good, then I think you could think about it. I'd be pretty surprised though, because Annunen has played well and has won some big ones here, recently. So I just think you have to trust in that, and you gotta rest Saros, because like you said, even though tonight is a huge moment in the whole thing, you're probably going to go with him the rest of the way. And even if you're down to, I guess, 11%, or you can win this game. You can win this game without him. And I think you probably have a better chance. I mean, when's the last time Saros played a back-to-back?
Oh, I don't know. It's been a while. I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's done it this year. So
I don't think it happened this season, right? Yeah. So it's unfamiliar, territory. I understand, you've had a condensed schedule. Because it's not like the Olympics. They'd always had a day break, right?
Yeah,
I think.
Well, and also like the game. Well, now that you say that, I think he may have played a back-to-back in the Olympics.
Did they go back? Yeah, maybe they did. Yeah. So, but I think I'd be pretty surprised by that.
Well, also the game went to a shootout last night, so it's not like it was just some,
right.
He was out there and faced 13 shots and that was it. Now that's one thing. The situation of the way the game was played as well has got to factor it. So my guess is they're going on and then tonight, and whatever. The other part of this is also 3 and 4. So he played Saturday, he played last night. I think you're asking an awful lot from your starting goaltender to play his third game in 4 nights in the situation that they're in. So my guess is Annunen goes in there tonight. And like I said, whatever the best version is, like if you're Stamkos, who, by the way, and Eric Stevens did a really good piece at The Athletic yesterday, kind of detailing, the Predators making a playoff push, Stamkos being, one of the driving forces behind it. He's approaching 40 goals. And we talk so much about O'Reilly and kind of the culture piece that he is here, and obviously the way he's played on the ice. I mean, to me, you could put Stamkos right there with him. Like, it's the same thing. Like, Stamkos, frankly, has more of an accomplished career than Ryan O'Reilly does. Like, so it's basically like the same thing with Steven Stamkos. And, he just wired one last night. So he's 1 goal away from 40. Like, you need your veteran players tonight this is one of those games where they need to will you to a win. And you're not going to win all of them. Like, again, the Predators have some limitations as to how talented they are, but those guys are starting to play pretty well down the stretch here. Stamkos found the net again last night. I think Forsberg, for the most part, been really good lately. Riley found the net, a huge goal against San Jose. This is one of those games where you got to trust your veteran guys to go out there and get you a win. Like, it's basically as simple as that. They gotta find a way tonight to get you one win, and then try it again on Thursday against Utah.
Yeah, and look, I mean, like Stamkos, I mean, he has been unbelievable. And again, like considering just this season, what some of the stuff we were saying, what everybody was saying early in the season about him. I mean, it kind of changed. To me, it's like I guess I look at like even the finish line for him a little bit differently than than I did in the fall. So and that's why we're even talking about hockey games that matter right now. So you do feel good when you think about it from the perspective of having to lean on guys like that because they've done a lot in their careers.
I got a commenter on the YouTube chat going back to the Saros conversation that says load management as we go down the stretch. It's not really load management. I mean, just the numbers tell you it's not a very good idea. Like, it's just
Right.
it's not a good idea to do it. So
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it would be one thing if your backup goalie, like, look, not to throw somebody under the bus, but I'll do it. It'd be one thing if you had like Big Save Dave from a few years ago, right? And Dave Riddich was your backup goalie, and you're like, oh my God, is he going to be able to stop the puck? Like, Annanen's played pretty well, and the numbers that they've looked at with this, there's a reason that goalies around the league don't play back-to-backs very much, is because the numbers tell you it's not a very good idea.
Yeah, load management is, players who are supposed to be available for every game. It's not hockey where you have backup goalies who always play. Like there aren't goalies who play all 82 games, right?
Correct.
So, yeah, that's a pretty bad comparison. YouTube chatter, which is not coming up for me, by the way. I would like to type in an insult too, but I can't.
Yeah, I mean, and again, look, Brunette may look at it and say, you know what, screw that, screw all that. We need our best goalie in the game tonight. That may be the way he views it. Like, I'm not going to discount that as a possibility. If you're forcing me to assign a percentage to it, I'd go 85-15 that Annanen's in net tonight, and that may be generous. Like, it may be more like 95-5, but
yeah, I'll go 98 too.
There you go. So I just think you need your backup goalie to step up and win you a game, which, by the way, he's done several times down the stretch here. So that's the other part of this is I think you're feeling good about the way that he's played. This is an Anaheim team that you're going to see twice down the stretch here. You've got 5 games left, okay? So 5 games left. To me, what do you need to win? 4 of them? Like, we just went through LA's schedule. So LA's got Vancouver twice. They got Calgary on the schedule, who's not very good. They're a 1-point lead on you. And the good news about, specifically with LA, if you end up tied in points with LA, you're going to win. Like, they literally cannot catch you anymore when it comes to the regulation wins tiebreaker. Now, San Jose is right behind you. You've got 26 regulation wins. San Jose's got 25. And by the way, like, Winnipeg has gotten into this with 80 points, and they're at 27 on the regulation win counter. So they're only 2 points behind the Preds at this point. So they've made it pretty interesting coming up down the stretch here. I mean, Seattle's done. Seattle's donezo at this point. So Winnipeg has kind of replaced them in the race here. So you're feeling okay about where you're at from a tiebreaker standpoint. If it's LA and that's who you're obviously looking up at right now, if you can just find a way to get tied with them, you're going to win the tiebreaker against the Kings.
Yeah, so 10 possible points. Yeah, probably. You probably need 8. That gets you to 90, which, I mean, 90 is not – I mean, there's a lot of teams that get 90 points that don't make the playoffs. I think 95 is kind of that number, isn't it? That's
not a very good year for the Western Conference.
No. But I would guess that if they get to 90, that probably does it.
Logan says, I stayed up to watch the game, have to be at work at 4:45 in the morning. I'm so happy to watch the Predators total 1 shot on 3 shootout attempts. Yeah, it's tough. need the shootout attempt to at least get on the goal. You know,
Yeah. I mean, even
just at
Ryan
least make the
Johansson-
goalie make the save.
Ryan Johansson might take 15 minutes to get a shot up, but he would put it on goal, darn it.
Yeah, what's going on with the shootouts against the Kings here?
Yeah, man.
The Preds are pretty good again in the shootouts.
I guess. I mean, look, Kings
Other
had
ones-
enough practice at it. I guess they've just gotten good at it.
Yeah,
throughout
maybe their
the year.
goalies are really good at it. I mean, go 8 rounds, not get one, and then not get one last night.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's a tough one.
At
Tough
least you
one.
don't have to worry
it's-
about those in the playoffs if you make it.
That's true.
Although
shootouts.
their record's good in the shootouts over the past however many years. This was the first one they lost in a long time. earlier
Basically,
this
ever
season.
since like Andrew Brunette has been there, they've been pretty good in the shootout. So, unfortunately, that's not going to be a weapon for you come playoff time. But look, I have seen it several
Regression to the
times
mean.
at this point in the NHL. Like whether or not you make the playoffs may come down to a shootout, which I know a lot of people hate, and I don't necessarily love it, but it may come down to a shootout at some point at the end of this regular season, Joe.
It may. And yeah, I get it. You know, not my favorite either. It is crazy that they've played 14 of those this year.
Yeah.
That's
615-737-1025.
games.
Our phone number 615-737-1025. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Predators plus a Titans question that I want to get Joe and the listeners' thoughts on. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode 1025 The Game. Tee it up with us at the 5th annual 615 Open coming up May the 28th at Hermitage Golf Course. We are supporting Folds of Honor to help them fund life-changing scholarships for families of America's fallen heroes. Register now to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Gentry Estus from the Tennessean will be with us at 8 o'clock. We will get his thoughts on the Predators. We will get into the Predators throughout the show. And stay tuned. I got some tickets to give away to the Predators a little bit later in the show as they take on the San Jose Sharks at Bridgestone Arena coming up next Monday, April the 13th. So make sure you're tuned in for that. So, Joe, I got a question that I want you to discuss. I want our listeners to really think about here because, as you know, we are in that that period right now, and this happens regardless of who gets hired, of everything's rosy, right, with the new head coach, right? Like you've made a change. People are excited about this next era of Titans football with Robert Saleh coming in. They've changed up the uniforms, and Cam Ward's heading into year 2. A lot of reasons to be excited. Got a new stadium coming up, all those things. I think back to when Brian Callahan was hired, Joe, and if you try to, in your mind, if you're a Titans fan, take yourself back to that point without knowing what we know now, which is the results of what happened with Brian Callahan. There was a lot of optimism. There was a lot of excitement. I remember having conversations about, well, look, the Titans are moving on from Mike Vrabel, and now they're kind of stepping into that new phase in the NFL of bringing in the offensive guy and the offensive head coach, and he's going to be calling plays. And, man, did you see how many quarterbacks Brian Callahan's been around? Look at all these guys that he's worked with. And we saw how that played out. Didn't go very well. Now, that was at least a guy that had not been a head coach before, and that we didn't know like anything really about him when it came to either play calling or being a head coach. So there was a lot kind of left up in the air there. Saleh is different. Saleh has been a very good defensive coordinator in this league. He has also been a head coach in this league. And right now, as a head coach, as we've discussed a lot, his record is 20-36 overall. He's 20-36 as a head coach in the National Football League, of course, with the New York Jets. So my question is simply this. I do think there's a lot of excitement about Robert Saleh and this new era of Titans football that's coming up. I also, Joe, when they hired him, and you saw the text line just like I did, there are a lot of texts that were like, okay, so we hired the New York Jets coach who wasn't very good, who got fired, whose record is 20-36 as an NFL head coach. So tell me again why I'm supposed to be excited about all this. So, Joe, as we step into this new era here with Robert Saleh, what are signs along the way other than, hey, how many freaking games are they winning in 1 year? What are signs along the way that you are looking for that will suggest to you that maybe this is going to be different than it was with the New York Jets for Robert Saleh and his second stop here with the Tennessee Titans?
Well, that's a good question. One thing that beyond the one loss, because there's a lot of excuses you can make for him, but
Sure.
One thing that definitely happened there was it was very dysfunctional, of course, and so there was a lot of, and it's a huge media core as well, and there's some people in that organization who really like talking, and so, but again, that happens. I mean, like it just happens, and so if you're like in Saleh's position, like you really just have to focus on like just doing the job the best you can, and he seemed to be distracted by that, and trying to like find out who's talking stuff. Like it's just such a waste of time, and it's like, to me, that's a sign of like someone who just isn't totally in command of the job. Now, how do you how do you see that here? I don't know. I'm just saying that's something beyond the wins and losses where I guess maybe a little sensitive, just a little bit, rabbit ears and distracted from the job. So, I mean, I think that he comes across the same way, and it's impressive, right? I mean, but that also it doesn't necessarily mean a ton, like you said. Brian Callahan, in terms of like pressers and public persona and stuff like that,
It's good.
was good until we got into some stuff where he didn't know the rules and act like he did, and all that stuff. But
That'd be one
like,
thing I'm looking for on Salah. Do you know the rules of the game?
Yeah, that'd be one. But so I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be hard to have signs, until we just start seeing the football. But I also do think that a huge part of, I guess, the hope and the optimism would be that he has an OC who has been a head coach, has been a successful OC, has been a successful quarterback developer. And so that aspect of him on paper is better. And so you want to see signs that that is working, even in like off-season stuff, and even in I know that Cam Ward is obviously he's hurt right now, stuff like that. But you want to see as many signs as possible that like the offense, even from what guys on the offense and what they're saying is going to be an asset, is going to improve.
But it's interesting because I can take some of what we already know and go both sides of it, Joe. There's some of what we already know about what Robert Saleh is going to be doing that I look at and I say, cool. Well, that's different than what we saw in New York, and I'm excited to see what it looks like. For instance, like he's going to be calling plays, right? Like he's de facto the defensive coordinator calling plays as the head coach, which he did not do with the Jets. And he's talked about that and talked about how, hey, he feels like that was a big mistake from his first time around as a head coach. So we'll see. I don't know. Like I understand both sides of that argument, Joe, of, there are some people out there that don't necessarily love the idea of you spending all that much time on the defensive side of the ball when you're the head coach. Now there's the flip side of that, where there's all sorts of examples of that on the offensive side scattered across the league. And those guys don't really seem to have a huge problem with it. So I'm not necessarily worried about that, but it is different, right? Like that's how he's gotten to this position, is his acumen on the defensive side of the ball. So I am excited to see, with number one, the additions that the Titans have made on the defensive side of the ball from a personnel standpoint, and maybe what's still to come here. And then number two, him being fully in charge of that. And I think twofold on that. He's in charge, and you've got a guy that you just worked with in Gus Bradley, who is actually the defensive coordinator. So I like all that. Like all that sounds good to me. That's different than what happened in New York, and I'm excited about that. And Joe, the flip side of all that is he just went and brought in a bunch of dudes that he knows from like New York, right? Like there's a bunch of guys that we talked about yesterday in this conversation that, people are looking around the league, whether it's him or whether it's the Dable connection with the Giants. And it's like, wow, there sure are a lot of guys that they've brought in that were on teams that didn't win a whole lot of football games that they're now trying to throw in here with the Tennessee Titans. So I understand if you're a Titans fan looking at it and saying, okay, do we really want to be like the New York Jets and New York Giants of the South here? Like what's going on the personnel standpoint? So you can make arguments both ways of there's clearly some things that are going to be different about that we already know that he's putting into place. And then you look at some of the moves they made this offseason. It's like, boy, there sure are a lot of Jets and Giants coming in here.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get the lack of excitement there. Jared in Spring Hill on the YouTube chat says, how does he hold his players accountable? That's something I'm going to focus on. We know he likes taking away his assistant coach's phones to keep him in check. Still not excited about him. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. Like, that's a fair, the whole Jeff Simmons meltdown in camp that day. Callahan probably should have done a little more there, for example. I don't know if he did, if anything changes, but there's – and that part of it is probably good, especially like I do think there's value in trying as much as possible, even though there's some different rules at times for stars and, established veterans and young players, but no one's above, basically no one's above the law on the roster. There was one of those moments that might have been a little bit of a bad sign about Callahan.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. So we've thrown it out there. Robert Saleh, as a head coach, is 20-36 to this point in his career. What's your optimism level that stop 2 with the Titans will be different than what we saw in New York? What are you looking for kind of along the way that makes you feel better about that? We'll get into more of your thoughts on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. We are presented by Green Ventures Landscaping. Get thicker grass, better color, and fewer bare spots with turf application. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com. We will have the Rob rant coming up later this hour. Gentry Estus from the Tennessean will be with us at 8 o'clock on the program. We will get into the Predators with Gentry. We will get into a bunch of different things, including the Masters. He made sure that we were going to get into that a little bit. So I can't wait to hear Joe Rexrode's questions about the Masters. Coming up here in about an hour with Gentry Estus here on the program. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. So Robert Saleh, 20-36 as a head coach. It's a .357 win-loss percentage there. So what's your confidence level that it's going to be different here in stop 2? What are you looking for maybe along the way that suggests to you that it's going to be different? Taking your thoughts on all that. Liam says it needs to be at least as good as Bill Belichick's second stop, which that would be something if it was as good as Bill Belichick's second stop as a head coach in the league. Maybe not his third stop, though. Don't need to be North Carolina football.
Yeah. I mean, 1 year, but not great. Second stop would be good.
That'd be nice.
I do agree with this text because I think, like every team has good players. Texter says Titans are just as bad as the Jets and Giants and maybe worse. Why are you worried about bringing in players? I mean, I generally agree with that. Like every team has some good players. So if you get the right players from another team,
sure,
then, there's a lot of Titans who are on crappy teams here who have gone to other teams and they're good and they're playing well on better teams. So that can happen.
Sure. I'm just saying that is a pretty popular talking point around the league.
Oh, no doubt. No, very well. Yeah. I mean, we quoted, we talked about
executives talking about it. Yeah.
Executives making fun of it. So it is a lot. I mean, that's the thing. It's a lot. It's a lot from guys who did a lot of losing together.
Well, I think if you're a Titans fan looking at this, the thing that excites you the most, at least what excites me the most, is like I feel pretty confident based on the moves that have already been made and Saleh's history on defense. He's going to get the defense figured out. Like I'd be pretty surprised if, particularly when, the next couple of years go by and you're continuing to churn over the roster, like the Titans here in the next couple of years should have pretty good defense, right? Like with Saleh leading the way and some of the moves that they've already made on that side of the ball. Offensively is where it bit him in New York. They couldn't get quarterback figured out. They drafted Zach Wilson. That was a disaster. They bring in Rodgers and he tears his Achilles on the 4th snap of the year. Like quarterback was a disaster in New York. And some of the offensive coordinators that he had just didn't go well. So I feel good about Brian Daboll as an offensive coordinator, right? Like, I don't know if you're a Titans fan, based on his history, how you couldn't feel pretty good about that part of it. And that, to me, is, you're running, in his words, a different offense than some of the NFL is running. And, look, I think there's limitations to that. Like, they're going to be able to figure out the offense. It's not like it's that different. But I think there's a demonstrated track record of success on the offensive side of the football that he brings to the table and a lot of experience as an offensive coordinator and offensive play caller in this league. So I like all that. And then, the answer to Saleh's long-term viability here as head coach, Joe, is probably largely going to come down to, quarterback was a disaster in New York. Is quarterback a strength for you in Tennessee? Because if quarterback's a strength for you in Tennessee, that's how you're here for a long time if you're a head coach.
Yeah, if you're head coach, yeah. Not as an OC, then you have to have a succession plan. But yeah, of course, that'll be the difference, and that's a huge TBD. I mean, I you probably would not say the first year was encouraging on that front, but you also have plenty of excuses and plenty of reasons for a lot of things that went wrong. So, but of course, I mean, and that's the thing, we're talking about signs, signs that are, that things will be different. I guess you could probably just, again, games will be the strongest signs of Cam Ward in games, but just even Cam Ward, I mean, how he looks in practice and things like that, how he's recovering, how things seem to be going with him and Daboll and the new offense and some of the new skill guys. I mean, you know, there's limitations to that, but like, for example, like the Calvin Ridley stuff with Levis a couple years ago is a little bit of a red flag, right?
Yep. Well, and then just, you know, from a management standpoint, I think we would all agree with this. Like, we've all been in jobs where you start a job or you take on a new position, and as time goes on, you get more comfortable, you get way better at that job or way better at that position. Like, that can happen in the NFL, right? Like, you know, a lot of times you get one head coaching job and you never get another chance. That does happen in this league. Well, he's got another chance here. So, I mean, in the back of his mind, he's got to know that if it doesn't go well this time, then he's probably not getting a third. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find a coach that is 20-36. Let's say he wins at roughly the same pace here. Like, you're probably not getting a third head coaching job at that point, regardless of how good of a defensive coordinator you are. So I think you got to know that if you're Robert Saleh heading into this. And, you know, going through that experience in New York with the Jets, who, look, as bad as the Titans have been and as dysfunctional at times as they've appeared, they still don't really hold a candle to the New York Jets in terms of dysfunction, like long-term, going on, you know, a decade and a half straight of just total incompetence. Like, it's not really that when it comes to the Tennessee Titans. So there are some built-in excuses that you can look back and say, yeah, it's the New York Jets. How much in stop two, you know, how much did that experience in New York really teach him? And in stop two here with the Titans, how much does he learn? Because, like, there's got to be some internal motivation there after it went as poorly as it did with the Jets, of Saleh knowing that this is his shot. Like, if he's going to be a head coach in the NFL long term, I mean, this is basically it, man. You're not getting another chance if this one doesn't go well.
Yeah, and there are plenty of coaches who settle in. That's just a really good coordinator, you know, and so that's basically what it'll be if it doesn't work. But yeah, I agree. I don't see another chance after this one. So there's a lot riding on it. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, what did he learn? You know, I'm sure some of the things he would say would be like, well, you know, like, don't have your quarterback tear his Achilles. Don't go work for Woody Johnson. You know, there's stuff, but also as we talked about earlier, like, to me, it's like, don't let yourself become distracted from, like, just trying to, you know, do everything to win football games. I mean, like, there's going to be distractions. There's going to be outside stuff. There's going to be stuff you don't like that you hear or that you read, you know, and it just goes with the job, you know. And it seemed like, and again, I understand, like, New York is a different deal. So I'm sure that's from him. It's like, oh, so basically I just have, like, you know, like, Kaharski annoys me here and there. And, you know, like, this is way easier. I'm sure, you know, just a way reduced number of people. So you can have a handle on that. Has got to be probably refreshing for him.
Do we think that he's a subscriber to paulkuharski.com?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, do the Titans subscribe as an organization and then everybody gets a password, or do they individually subscribe? I mean, if they cared about Kaharski, they'd individually subscribe, you know, right? Give him a little extra dough. But that's a good question.
I don't know. That may have to come up at some point.
If the everybody should just try to log in as, like, the Titans, and they probably their password probably just like Tennessee Titans, you know?
615-737-1025 is our phone number. More thoughts to get to on the Titans coming up next. We'll take your questions on the Titans. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Today, the Nashville Sounds taking on Gwinnett, AAA affiliate for the Atlanta Braves. First pitch is at 5:35. You can catch all the action on Sports Talk 830, presented by Family Leisure and Social Cantina. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning, talking some Titans. Our football offseason coverage presented by Tennessee Brew Works. Finely tuned craft beer for finely tuned fans. Tennessee Brew Works, official craft beer of the offseason coverage here on 1025 The Game. We'll have the Rob rant coming up here in about 30 minutes. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Keith on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, I love how we don't have to worry one bit about special teams. Don't take that for granted. This is from Keith on the text line. I do feel good about Bones Fossil in charge of the special teams. You know, we'll see, how the punting and kicking goes this year. But definitely a massive step forward last year on the special teams front, and you got an all-pro punt returner. What more could you want?
Well, no, I mean, it is good. It's the thing that you talk about the least by far, but you talk about it when it stinks, basically, And unfortunately, that's actually been something that we've talked about a lot of the years with the Titans. So that is a big deal. But other things that you only really talk about if they're bad is, like, for example, the offensive line, which is another thing that we still continue to talk about a lot with the Titans. And, that's still any Titans discussion. I end up circling back to like that as, man, right now there's just more uncertainty there than you would like to have after the free agency period.
So one thing I'm curious about, we just saw Jeffrey Simmons have his best year of his career. He had 11 sacks, great player last year on a bad team with the Titans. Now that they've gone out and they brought in John Franklin Myers, and again, we'll see what they do in the draft. Maybe they add a high-profile edge rusher to go along with it. But you're talking about John Franklin Myers, who had 7.5 sacks last year on the interior, and now you're pairing him with Jeffrey Simmons. So what does that mean for Simmons, who will be 29 next year, who is coming off the best year of his career, who was relatively healthy last year? He played 15 games for the Titans. Is there another level? Like, number one, can he replicate what he just did, which is 11 sacks and is going even beyond the sack total? Just an absolute menace for the Titans this past year. Single-handedly got them off the field on defense several times last year. Is there another level to that now that you pair him with John Franklin Myers up the middle? Like, what version of Jeffrey Simmons are we getting next year under Robert Saleh and with the pieces that are going to be around him? That, to me, is as key as anything on the defensive side of the ball, because if he's as good as he was last year and then you pair Franklin Myers with him, it's a terrifying, front that the Titans are going to have at that point, particularly if you add another edge rusher at number 4, which we talked about. But, what version of Jeffrey Simmons is next year going to be, and how big of a deal is it to have Franklin Myers next to him? That part of it is going to be really interesting to watch, especially early next year.
Yeah. Well, it'd be tremendously disappointing if there's a step back from him. I mean, you look what he did this last year. I mean, there was some, obviously his play had kind of gone down, and then he was, the social media stuff, the wanting to throw Buck into the little pond there stuff. I mean, like he really did a lot last year to kind of turn everything around. And obviously he found out that, he found a key there, which was just losing some weight, getting in like great shape. But I just expect him to be great again next year. And the superpower of the last couple of teams, you thought maybe, Tavondre Sweat could just become next to him. The two of them together could be really dynamic. It didn't really work out because Sweat, just isn't. I mean, he just never really became what he was drafted to be. But Franklin Myers is really good, and I think that combination should be the strength of the team.
I would agree. I just look at that combo together, and that's another reason why I look at the possibility of selecting a high-profile edge rusher at number 4 and just thinking about what that front could be at that point. And again, I understand the help in the quarterback part of it, but that's pretty big help to your quarterback there for sure. There's some thought out there, and I've seen this. I think Todd McShay discussing this. I think he said that don't be shocked if Cornell Tate sneaks into the top 5 of this year's draft. I'd be really interesting to see like who that would be. Like who would be in the top 5 that drafts Carnell Tate, because there's a clear, I mean, the Titans need him, like they need a receiver, right? So I mean, that would be on the list. You know, the Giants are on that 5th overall pick there. Obviously, somebody could trade up into the top 5. So without knowing who that would be, but I heard McShay say that yesterday. Don't be surprised if Carnell Tate goes in the top 5. Count me as somebody, Joe, who would be surprised if Carnell Tate is in the top 5.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised. I mean, maybe he has information on a particular team, and also maybe he has misinformation. I mean, Trevor's saying, you guys see, move the sticks, Stringer and Jeremiah said there's evidence to suggest the Jets are leaving David Bailey over Reese. And I don't understand the rest of his text. Jeremiah, the Titans aren't in on Bain at number 4. I don't know what that means, but yeah, exactly. It is lying season. So, if you keep track of all these things that people hear, sometimes they just can't come true. Maybe a team really does want to do this or that, and it can't. Like move up, whatever. But I think some of it ends up being BS too.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, there's a lot of that going on this time of year. Let's see here. A lot of people asking about Dexter Lawrence. So maybe just adding another former Giant. So apparently Dexter Lawrence wants to be traded. So he is requesting a trade from the New York Giants. I mean, you've already kind of addressed the middle there, Joe. I'd be surprised if I know that there's, anytime there's a Giants player available now, you make the natural connection. I don't think that the Titans are going to be in on that. Could be wrong, but don't think that.
Yeah, probably not. That's that's a little bit of overload. They talk, I mean, how much money can you? It's an important part of your team, the interior, the defensive line, but you don't want half your payroll to be devoted to it.
Simmons, Franklin Myers, and you've got Dexter Lawrence in there. I mean, good Lord, the rotation you could roll through there would be sick. But yeah, I'd probably leave that one alone if I'm the Titans.
Just playing like that Buddy Ryan, that Bear defense, and just load up. Just put 10 on the line, man.
I mean, short yardage run situations, that'd be a problem, Joe. That'd be a real big problem for the opposing offense.
Yeah, the tush push would be doomed. So they'd have that going for them.
Maybe that's why you do it. That's why you do it.
They might not ever get like a team and they might not be able to chase teams down or have a 4th and 1. But if they ever got to that,
just move Simmons to the edge at that point. You keep John Franklin Myers in the middle, but Lawrence in the middle, and just move Simmons out to the edge. Say, hey, we need you to lose even more weight this offseason.
Hey, Simmons has rushed from the edge.
He has
different looks before, so
I mean, he could probably,
maybe
in all seriousness, probably do it. Probably wouldn't be as effective as he is right now, but he could probably do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually it could be like you think about the old 4-3, like the strong side end.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not that far from it. The way he moved last year. There we go.
Jacob in Murfreesboro says, my hope is Saleh can put out a solid defense and Dable can put Ward in a position to succeed. Also, I need to have some unfounded hope in this team since it's only April and I can't be miserable about them all summer long. Amen to that. See, look, I said earlier, it's that time of the year. They did the same stuff with Callahan coming in. It's optimism season. I'm all for optimism season because Lord knows we've gotten enough negativity around this team over the last 4 years.
No, this is the time. Yeah, this is the time to let your mind wander about good things that might happen. Even if it's it turns out to just be your imagination. I mean, this is the time for that. And of course, we'll get to August and there'll be some good things. This team will be improved. And some of the optimism in August will probably be a little bit out of hand. Like someone at this station will have them winning 10, 11 games.
What's your speaking of that? What's your guess for what their win total is at the moment on the FanDuel Sportsbook?
The over/under. 5.5.
6.5.
Okay.
6.5. Yeah. The over/under win total.
Do you remember what it was a year ago?
I want to say it was 5.5.
Was it? Okay. All right. Well, hey, it's better than 5.5.
That's true. Can you guess
they must be making progress.
I'll give you a hint. There are 2 teams that are tied for the lowest win total right now on FanDuel. Can you guess who those 2 teams would be?
I mean, I would definitely have to. I think I would definitely have to guess Cleveland and I mean, I get Jets, Cleveland and the Jets.
Cleveland has a win total on here of 6.5, right there with the Titans. The New York
Okay.
Jets win total is 5.5. The two lowest at 4.5.
Cardinals.
The Cardinals, one of them, and the Miami Dolphins, the next one.
Yeah.
Not
okay.
a lot of respect being thrown Malik Willis's direction by the FanDuel Sportsbook.
Yeah. Well, not a lot of respect being thrown to him by the team that paid him. Like, hey, Malik, come on in, and now you're going to play with the replacements. We'll get some USFL guys for you.
Hey, they did make it
I should have
clear
thought of the Dolphins.
they're not trading the running back, so that's good.
Yeah, that is good. Congrats, Malik.
Way to go. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. So the Lady Vols don't have any basketball players. That's going to be a problem. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Vanderbilt baseball in action today, taking on Eastern Kentucky at Hawkins Field. First pitch at 6 o'clock. Catch all the action on 94.9 The Fan. Coverage presented by Gary Force Acura. We'll have the Rob rant coming up here in just a few minutes at 7:45. Gentry Estus from the Tennessean will be with us to kick off the 8 o'clock hour. And later in the program, I will have some tickets to give away for the Predators and the San Jose Sharks coming up on Monday at Bridgestone Arena. So make sure you're tuned in for that. Joe, a big problem with the Lady Vols right now. It is not going well for Kim Caldwell. We talked about how things went this season on the court. And now, as we are heading into critical part of the offseason here, they have one player on the roster. One. They have no returning players. Like all the players that had eligibility. I believe at the moment, one recruit coming in next year, which is Gabby Minus coming in, who is the number 62 overall wing coming in next season. So one player on the roster right now for Kim Caldwell heading into next year. Now, obviously, the portal's coming up. I mean, I guess, Joe, they're going to be able to field a team here. But how big of a problem is this? And if you're Danny White looking at this and the way that this is all shaken out here, how does this whole thing kind of factor into the Kim Caldwell discussion as a whole? Obviously, this is a big problem, and that was making headlines yesterday around the sport of women's basketball of just how desolate things are for the Tennessee Volunteers program right now.
Yeah, look, the Holly Road tweet, someone sent it to me yesterday and was like, this is actually kind of shocking. I mean, Holly Rowe, for the most part, is constant, a constant source of positivity. She does a great job, by the way. And I guess I don't sit there and monitor like everything she says or everything that she posts, but I can't remember like anything like that. And
she said, "quote What Danny White is allowing to happen to the Lady Vols is making me so sad. Gut-wrenching to watch him let one of the greatest programs in women's sports history disintegrate. I'm devastated."
Yeah, like what? I mean, my goodness. So, there's and the reaction to that, as I see, is some of the people are like, how dare you like pile on, Kim Caldwell type thing. But then also a lot of people like agreeing, of course, because I don't know. It's clear that there were issues between Kim Caldwell and some players. And you don't have to have issues for players to get into the portal. Rick Barnes has JP Estrella and Jalen Carey in the portal and Bishop Boswell in the portal.
Yep.
And honestly, I would have guessed all of them would be, sometimes guys go in the portal and come back. That does happen. But typically, if you go into the port, that means you're going somewhere else, and it's surprising. It's disappointing. I mean, to lose, in particular, of those three, Estrella, that's a loss, man. To be able to have a veteran big with his talent, and if you could get him healthy, I thought he would have been a really key piece. So again, that's not a reflection on Rick Barnes, right? But when everyone leaves, basically, what the heck does that say? And what does that say about her chances of salvaging this? I mean, it's pretty shocking.
It's pretty shocking. And, look, they're going to go out in the portal. They're going to bring people in, and we'll see what she's able to do in the portal. But this is basically, Joe, she's entering into her third season, and this is basically totally starting over. It's not where you want to be heading into your third year, right? And I understand college sports are different now, but, part of what people were excited about with her heading into last season was the recruiting, right? She brought in a really good recruiting class, and now it's all gone. It's gone. So you're basically starting over heading into year 3 under Kim Caldwell. And I just, look, I understand you can go out in the portal and you can bring in some good players, and, some people, that's part of the biggest part of their strategy in today's college basketball. But you're going to have a hard time convincing me that she's going to be able to go out and get the necessary depth that you got to have all in the transfer portal this year. Like, I don't see how that's going to happen. So what you're probably looking at, Joe, let's say she does a decent job of putting together a roster in the transfer portal. You're still probably looking at a team that is right around where they were this year, right? Heading into next year. And that may be best case scenario. So what does that all mean?
Well, I mean, to me, that's a stretch even. And again, it's also, I don't know what to think. You know, obviously closely monitoring. Like, there's going to be players like, oh, I can just come start at Tennessee, you know. But first of all, like, I think a lot of the commentary around this year's team was like, you know, well, this is the problem sometimes with, like, you know, sometimes you get people who don't fit together or don't get along. I mean, that's a hard part of the sport now, right? I mean, can you also have good chemistry and all that stuff when you bring in, like, when you have, you know, largely new teams year after year. So, you know, so now, boy, is that a chore, you know, to do an entire team.
Yeah.
Also, like, aren't they going to have to overpay significantly? Again, this is an athletic department that baseball matters, men's basketball matters. I think there's a lot of talk about, you know, the Vols, the men's basketball program, like, spending big and helping Rick, you know, and we haven't even gotten to football yet. So, okay, so is Kim Caldwell getting, like, a really big number here to try to save this, or are we already to the point where it's just like lame duck season and Danny White's look, you know, I mean, he threw a lot of support at her, but there's no way he thought that there'd be no players on this team at this point here on April 7th.
Let's head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Adam in Portland to the program. Adam, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Let me ask you something, man. Just sitting here listening to you guys talk about this, do you think they would have bailed out on Pat? Like, I wonder what NIL under Pat would have looked like. Like, would she have just gotten the greatest players every year? Would they all be jetting out as soon as the first sign of trouble? Or I don't know, man. Like, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, I don't think they're treating this lady right to begin with, but I wonder how they would have acted if it was Pat.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Joe, it's obviously, I mean, we'll never know. It's a different time now. And part of that is also, and coaches have talked about this, like, the style of coaching now is just different too, right? Like, Pat Summitt was not afraid to get after you. And, you know, I don't know that kids today are as receptive of that as it used to be back in the day. And look, some of the portal stuff, as you mentioned, some of it's just either finding better opportunity elsewhere or making more money elsewhere. Like, some of it's just as simple as that. This, to me, just feels like a total collapse here, right? Like, obviously, like, she just totally lost her team. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it feels like everybody's like, I just can't be in this program. It's a bad sign. Nate asking if this is AI or fake. No, this is a real Holly Rowe tweet. So that's not. No, that's her. That's her account. That's her. Those are her words and thoughts. And so, you know, but yeah, look, it's an interesting question on Pat Summitt. Let's remember that Gino is coaching still,
yep.
Right? And Dawn, I think that Dawn Staley, you know, I think she's a tough, hard driving coach with tough teams. What they have is, I mean, look, Gino, AZ Fudge, you know, she was a senior. Like, Sarah Strong's gonna be a junior next year. He recruits the best players and he keeps them, and then he supplements here and there, right? I mean, it just had Paige Becker's won it all. I think that'd be the same thing with Pat. Yep. I think Pat would have teams. I think she can still coach today. I mean, again, Gino is not a picnic, okay?
No, he's not.
Yeah. So I think she would be successful. She'd have those things, and then, you know, you adjust to what it is, and then they could go out and be like, oh, you know what? Let's go get that, you know, that 4 from Kentucky that's really good. I think she would do great in today's, but still, yeah, like, there are times when what happens even with those programs, sometimes it's like, well, do I want to be the 7th player at UConn or Tennessee, or do I want to go actually get a big bump and go, like, play for TCU? You know, stuff like that would happen. But this is, of course, nothing. I mean, this is just straight up. It's like a mutiny.
Yeah.
And again, you knew that some of that was going on, but the fact that all like the freshmen and everything. It's like you're here. This is your team now, and we're talking 5 stars. We're talking major recruits. I just don't know.
It feels like the type of thing gets coach fired, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I don't think Danny. I mean, I don't think Danny White would look at it right now and be like, you know what, we just have to move on and go get another coach. Again, especially after he doubled down so hard. But the only other thing would be like, okay, well, then you have to go out and dominate the portal. So here's all the money you need. Go do it. And then it's like, how many kids are like, so wait, why did everybody leave? Why would I go there?
Let's quickly head back to our phone line. Welcome in Mark in Nashville to the program. Mark, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, what's up, Robby? How you doing, Joe?
What's up, Mark?
Yeah, how you doing, man? Hey, sorry I lost the call the other day. I must have hit a bad area.
I'm just glad
when
you're
I was
okay. We were
talking,
worried about you for a second.
Yeah, I'm good. Robby, Kim Caldwell's in trouble. She's in trouble, man. Probably she had a top 10 recruiting class. Had the number 2 recruit, number 11, and it was a couple others. Now she's fell out of the whole top 25. You're right. It may be a mutiny going on. Something's going on that's bad up there in Tennessee. And I think Danny White probably is going to have to make a change. Not now, but come next year. I mean, it was even said that the number 2 recruit, her mother called and told her, my daughter's not coming there. We're going to go with something else. So we need you to release us out of all this, and we're going to go elsewhere. That's a bad look right there, Robby. I don't know how she I don't know, Joe. I don't know how she overcomes that right there. That's a big, huge loss. Unless she can go out here and get 5 veteran players that used to be former 5-star players, maybe she can fix it that way. But it seems like, man, her reputation is going to kind of precede her, and people are going to look at that and say, no, I don't want to go there. So that's a bad look for Kim Caldwell. We may be looking at another coach. I'd open that checkbook up and tell Don Staley, hey, look, put your number down right here, 5, 6, 7 million, whatever it takes. But Joe, Robby, it's sad that a program, Pat Summers got to be looking down saying, hey, I didn't ever think this program would go down like this. But Joe, Tennessee's becoming almost an afterthought in women's college basketball now. They're not that blue blood women's program like they used to be. And I think it's really sad that it's went down like that up there at Knoxville. But hey, man, y'all have a good day. At least I didn't lose the call this time. I must be in a good area.
I guess so.
Must be in a good area. Yeah. Well, hey, Joe, Rob, y'all have a good day, man. We're going to get up the road, man.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you, man.
Way to finish strong.
All right.
Finish strong.
All right. See you, Joe.
See
Yeah,
ya.
it's wild the way that this has played out, and I'd love to know what Danny White's thinking about all this right now. 615-737-1025, our phone number. The Rob Rant coming up next. Gentry Estus at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
A steaming hot pile of heaping trash.
No, he will absolutely take a dump on that field.
Who gives a crap who wins the game?
Because Rexrode's overextended and tired and lazy.
I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm starting to believe in them.
I will fart your world up.
Does anyone else out there have this issue?
I'm just reading the news here.
You're trying to turn out propaganda. I want to see what's really happening.
And I hate it, and I blame Joe Rexrode.
It is that time of the day. It is time for the Rob Rant here on the program, brought to you by Rapid Response Generators. Power when it matters the most. Rapid Response Generators, a reserved access generator membership for Middle Tennessee homeowners. You can check it out today at rapidresponsegenerators.com. Joe, I want to speak to the people of Nashville today, particularly people who frequent parking garages in our city, and namely the two parking garages that I am at probably the most, given how much I'm down at Bridgestone Arena. The Music City Center down there holds a lot of cars in that sucker. And then the Symphony parking garage, which is formerly the Pinnacle parking garage, okay? And the beautiful thing about those two parking garages, Joe, is it's pretty navigable. I mean, like the lanes are fairly wide enough where there are arrows that are pointing where, hey, forward means this is the way you go if you're going straight. And the other direction, they have an arrow pointing forward as well, which means the area is wide enough for two vehicles to be able to go at the same time, which apparently is just a huge problem in these parking garages that people can't do. So we've got that going on. We got people that are scared to death, even though the parking garage is designed for two cars to be able to go in opposite directions next to each other. Nobody wants to do it. So we just get into a game of chicken right there in the middle of the parking garage at all times. And then we finally get to where the spots are. And you look down a couple rows and it's like, wow, there are 7 rows over there where there's nobody parked. All these parking spots are open. Just go pull in. But no, it never fails, Joe. The person in front of you has to go try to back in to this one spot surrounded by all these other vehicles and try to back their way into a parking spot. And, of course, they never do it correctly on the first try. So they got to pull back out and then try to back up again. I got stuck behind somebody in the Symphony garage a couple of weeks ago on the way to a Predators game that pulled in and out, tried to back into a spot 4 times. 4. If you can't back in after the second one, you're no longer allowed to back into a parking spot. By the time you backed in, you could have just rounded the corner and pulled into an entire level that had nobody parked. You could have pulled in. I could have pulled into a parking spot as I hit my microphone, taken the elevator down, and been halfway to the arena by the time this person backed in to a parking spot. We have got to, as a city, and I'll say this too. A lot of times I notice it's from people who have license plates that aren't necessarily from this state, which I guess no other state has operational parking garages. We have got to, as people who frequent Nashville, figure out how to operate a parking garage. I promise you it's not that hard. And if you can't back into a spot within the first 2 tries, let's stop trying to back into stuff in the parking lot. Round the corner, pull directly into the parking spot. It ain't that hard.
Man, it's infuriating. And, look, we've talked about just the backing in part of this before, right? And I've said, like, if it's a packed event, I get people wanting to do that. But like you said, then you better come correct. You better get it right. I mean, I don't know about you, but when someone's doing that, and if they have multiple turns, as soon as they give just a tiny bit of space, I just go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sitting there waiting for them to keep like, as soon as they start backing a little bit, I will cut it super close and just be like, I'm not waiting for you. But yeah, then you have, I understand, like, some parking garages are one way,
sure.
They're set up differently, but it does seem like some people don't understand that some aren't.
Yeah, there are big arrows on the ground. They show you where to go. Signs overhead, too. There's both. There's arrows on the ground, signs overhead that show you where to go. And some people act like it's their first day on Earth when they're in these parking garages.
And And so, when you're in that, if you're going to that game and you come out and then you're going home. I mean, obviously, I think we've all been in those situations. Does it really help you that much to back in? I mean, basically, you nose out and someone lets you in, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little. I mean, I get it. It's like so you can pull straight out and it's a little smoother. But if you start to nose out backwards out of a spot that you parked in, just driving into it, it's the same thing. You look back and someone will let you in. And then, obviously then you have to do a little bit more finagling, but guess what? You're in a line of cars anyway.
Well, and also,
right? You're just going to sit there and wait.
Also, like the majority of cars now have backup cameras. So I don't understand how it's taken 3-4 times to back into a spot now. Like you just, you look at the camera and you follow the lines and you back in. Like, and it would be one thing if it was some massive truck or something. This was like it was like a Volvo or whatever it was. Like it just back in, man.
Yeah, if you're that bad at backing
Volvo is the
in,
first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, if you're that bad at backing in, then you really shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
Well,
just pull into a spot.
It's the lack of parallel parking around here. People don't have the practice of the backup situation.
I guess not.
When you're parallel parking, you're used to backing up in the parking, so it helps a little bit.
Well, by the way, like if you're that, and this is, I guess, the problem I run to. Like if you're that obsessed with backing into it, again, just round the corner where the entire next row is empty, and you can back in there. But people do this because they want to save, 25 steps from one area to the next. So that's what it is. Like you got to get in right there because, oh my goodness, it's 25 steps closer than the other side of this level over. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's just, I just really, when it comes down to it, I think people just overvalue what it even does for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's keep our head on a swivel. Let's be aware of our surroundings in parking garages, and let's, as a city, try to operate these a little bit better. That's my message today here on the program. We'll have Gentry Estus from the Tennessean with us coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. And we head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Gentry Estus from the Tennessean. Gentry, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. I'm pretty tired. Staying up late for all these West Coast hockey games. It starts to wear on you after a bit.
Late night last night, the Nashville Predators, it was nice 9:38 puck drop last night between the Preds and the Kings. And Gentry, Preds lose in the shootout, which means they are 1 point back of LA now in the standings. 5 games are left. If you look at just kind of the math of it, and it differs slightly depending on where you look, but moneypuck.com has the Predators with last night's result at a 26% chance of making the playoffs. So they're back at it again tonight. I think tonight to me, it's a must win. Like, you got to go out and win the game tonight if you're the Predators. What do you make of where they are? 1 point back of a playoff spot, 5 games remaining down the stretch here with 3 games to end the season coming up at home.
Yeah, I mean, they've really – you got to admire the effort, right? I mean, they just haven't given in all year, and it just felt – you just felt like at some point or another that they were going to finally say, all right, you know, this is it. It's not our year, and they haven't done that yet. They've hung in there, but as you said, 20-something percent. It's kind of been close to that now for a little while, and you keep like one game after another are must-win games. And you know, you got a back-to-back playing Anaheim. I don't particularly think it's going to go well for this game tonight, but the Preds have a pretty long history now, the last few years, of doing exactly the opposite of what's expected of them. So who knows with this bunch? But you know, you admire the effort. It was a hard-fought game last night. It just felt like they were kind of fighting uphill that whole game, and then you know, the end they have a shot, but it's the Kings, so the thing's going to have to go to overtime, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately they've made it interesting a lot longer than I thought they would, for sure. I mean, you have to give them credit for that. However this turns out, Gentry, I think there's pretty much general agreement, you know, like that they should, and they are. They're going to go out and find a GM. Would you rather see an established quote unquote retread GM, but maybe someone who has demonstrated success, you know, probably success and failure at different points, or, you know, a number 2 at a successful organization getting a first shot?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I feel as though the NHL does seem like a retread kind of league in a lot of ways, with the coaches and some of the executives. So I think a lot of teams would do it that way. As you guys have talked about, I think that the line for a lot of fans in this is going to be, is it someone associated with the team already or not? I think most people would be okay with either of those routes, as long as it's somebody who would bring in a new perspective, some fresh blood, not being somebody who's already associated with the Predators right now. I think that probably is what they need, given this. But I also think they need someone who's going to be okay with the idea. This franchise does not want to tear it down. They do not want to rebuild completely. That's been made very clear the last few years, that even when you do toe that line, as Barry Trotz has the last couple of years with with a lot of the moves he's made, trading away players for draft picks, there's still a line that he wouldn't quite cross in terms of, we're not totally rebuilding. We're not going to call it a rebuild. We're going to call it a reset. And I think whoever comes into this job is going to have to be okay with that and say, this is a team that I don't think is ever going to tear it down to the studs like that. And there's going to have to, how do you best navigate that? Because I feel like, you know, if there's a big criticism of Trotz during his time in that job, it's that he never quite picked a lane successfully. He kind of kept a foot in both camps, and it didn't really work.
So, Gentry, we just talked a few minutes ago about the Lady Vols. They've got no returning players coming back. They have, I think, 1 player actually on their roster that's coming in. So this is obviously going to require a massive portal season for Kim Caldwell coming up here. If you're Danny White and you're watching all this take place after Kim Caldwell, I thought, overachieved in year one, and then it was a disaster this past year. Now you have this situation with her entire team just up and leaving. What are you thinking right now if you're Danny White, and do you think there's any way Kim Caldwell salvages this?
Well, I think you can salvage it by buying a new team in this day and age. I mean, it's possible, but you're going to have to convince players that everything's okay. I mean, it's look, guys, if we're sitting here talking about the Lady Vols right now, while the football team's going through spring practice, the basketball season just ended, they went to the Elite Eight, and Lady Vols didn't just go to the Final Four. If we're sitting here talking about that, ain't good.
No.
And they're getting a lot of attention right now for the fact that the program's just completely unraveling before our eyes. And I, there's a lot of there are plenty of teams at the University of Tennessee that I think the fans are okay with not being elite, but that's not one of them. That's a program that Tennessee is used to being elite. And I think the criticism all along, when Danny White hired Kim Caldwell, the criticism all along was with her experience. She really wasn't a big name who had really proven the ability to coach at that level. And despite some success the first year, and then she recruited really well coming into the second year, what has happened here at the end of this year has been the worst case scenario, I think, for Danny White and just a coach who basically just looks in over her head in this job. And I don't really know how to fix that without changing the coach, but, I think they're going to try their best.
Well, yeah, and look, I don't think this is going to happen, but because you're right, of course. I mean, this is the sport now is, okay, go out. But I'm looking at that, and it's like for them to have a chance to be competitive and not like really an embarrassment to the program next year, like miss the NCAA tournament for the first time type stuff. It's just like free agency in any sport. You're going to have to overpay all over the place to have a completely new team. I just wonder if, and then again, what's the reception there? I mean, of course you can get some players, but like how many players are kind of scared off by what they are seeing and have heard, about the program. So my question is, like I said, I don't think it's going to happen, but do you think there's any chance that Danny White at some point is like, you know what, we just have to I just have to own this, move on, and we have to go get the best coach we can get, and then you can go in the portal and have a chance next year?
Maybe so. To me, the bigger question with this, Tennessee, when you try to it's hard to be in everything school in this day and age. You see it all over the place where universities are having to kind of pick and choose what sports they want to care a little bit more about because of NIL and the transfer portal and all that. And it's always, with Tennessee, you have always kind of wondered, look, football's going nowhere. Men's basketball is obviously a very important, and they're about to have to rebuild quite a bit too. Now, what do you do with baseball, women's basketball, some of the sports that aren't quite on that top level? And it's not just Tennessee that's dealing with this right now. I think a lot of schools in the SEC are dealing with this right now. And if you're going to rebuild your entire team, you're right. It's going to cost a little money because you're going to pay that penalty for players that may think twice about joining this program right now.
So, Gentry, you saw a Vanderbilt football spring scrimmage. What were your impressions of Jared Curtis at quarterback for Vanderbilt?
Yeah, talented guy, 5-star recruit. I'm not sure Vanderbilt has really had this very much. And when it comes to a quarterback with just this kind of ability, it's an NFL arm. Absolutely. You knew that before he got there. You kind of saw that in high school, and really a lot of talent out there. But it's very early for him. He's in his first spring with the program. He's still kind of feeling his way through college football. It was an open scrimmage, so you were able to watch, kind of how it developed. So the first possession he was out there didn't go very well. It was a lot of holding on to the football, kind of scrambling around, not really knowing where to go with it. Second possession, he looked a lot more comfortable, though. And once he got into a rhythm, he started zipping the ball around pretty good. So I think there's going to be a lot to work with there. But as I wrote, I wouldn't give up on the idea of Blaise Berlowitz starting right away for Vanderbilt this year. I think he played pretty well in this scrimmage. You're talking about a senior. You're talking about a guy who really isn't that far away from Diego Pavia in terms of what he kind of gives you in an offense that's suited Pavia. I don't know if he wouldn't be the same as Pavia, obviously, but I think he'd be a pretty good fit for what Vanderbilt wants to do. So they've got a pretty good option if Curtis isn't the guy. But I will tell you, if Curtis isn't starting for that team this fall, there's going to be a lot of questions about why, because, I mean, you really are talking about a first-round NFL kind of player.
Yeah, we want the 5-star. We want the 5-star right away. Real quick on that, just quick follow-up. So do you think they'll kind of have to shift? You know, obviously, like you said, they have an offense in place that's worked very well with Pavia. Like, do you think they're going to have to adjust it significantly if it is Curtis? Like, we're going to see a lot of the stuff that we saw just won't be part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think they will adjust it. I don't know significantly. They've talked a little about maybe a little more pro-style concepts. I think you're probably going to see that, but I think what you're going to see more than anything, especially if it is Curtis, people forget. I think that the narrative with Vanderbilt's program right now is, my gosh, how can they replace Diego Pavia? This is going to be so different. But when you look at them out there, there's a lot of players back from last year's team, important players. Cedric Alexander's back in the backfield. MK Young, they've got receiver Junior Sherrill still there. So I think what you're going to see is Vandy maybe relying on the run game a little more, especially. You know, maybe you're not necessarily featuring the quarterback as much as you're featuring Cedric Alexander, maybe a little more. I think that's probably how this would go, is just to not ask as much of the quarterback. I tell you, it's a tough thing, because I feel like they would feel comfortable with Berlowitz, but you need to get Curtis the experience. And I feel like once he does get comfortable out there, he could be as good as they've ever had. I mean, we're talking about that kind of player.
All right, Gentry, last thing for you. We have the greatest golf tournament in the world coming up this week with the Masters. I've given you 4 guys: Scheffler, DeChambeau, Rahm, McIlroy, or the field to win. What are you taking?
The field. I've got several guys I kind of like that would be considered, you know, not necessarily favorites, but guys I think would have a good shot at it. And all of those, I mean, like, it's hard to pick against Scheffler. Rahm's got kind of a lot going on. McIlroy already had his moment last year. I don't know if it's a great fit for him at Augusta, even though he's a good enough player to get in the mix. I still feel like, I think this time you're going to see someone new. Chris Gotterup is a name that I'll kind of throw out there. Has been playing real well lately. Tommy Fleetwood is probably the one. If I had to say, who are you picking to win this thing? Tommy Fleetwood, I think it could be his turn. Yep. A guy who finally checked that box and got his tournament late last year. So it's kind of all out in front for him this year. He always plays well, continues to play well. If you're looking for an underdog out there that the odds are very much against, Max Homa always plays well at Augusta. He's always on the leaderboard, and he's a guy who nobody really seems to ever be talking about or see coming in this thing, but that's a name I'll throw out there too.
Joe, your thoughts on Max Homa's game heading into Augusta?
Yeah, I'm a little worried about his short game, but we'll see.
Howdy ho! Gentry, I can't wait. It's the greatest golf tournament on the earth. Looking forward to it. Thank you for being with us this morning, and we will talk to you soon, my friend.
You bet. Take care, guys.
Gentry Estus from the Tennessean, our guest. We'll react to what Gentry had to say coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. I got some tickets to give away to see the Nashville Predators take on the San Jose Sharks coming up at Bridgestone Arena on Monday, April the 13th. Will be a massive game coming up next week at Bridgestone Arena. Be caller number 6. Caller 6, 615-737-1025. Caller 6 will win a pair of tickets to see the Preds take on the Sharks at Bridgestone Arena coming up on Monday, April the 13th. Appreciate Gentry Estus for being with us in the last segment. Joe has been watching Max Homa swing tape throughout this break, so interested to get that breakdown as we get into the Masters a little bit later this week. It is a big game tonight for the Preds. They're taking on Anaheim. This is according to Money Puck, Joe. They have a 26% chance of getting in the playoffs now after their shootout loss to the Kings last night. If they win tonight's game in regulation, that jumps up to 41.5. So that would be a 41.5% chance. If they lose tonight's game in regulation, you are down to 12.72%. 12.72% if they lose tonight's game.
I said 11 earlier,
regulation.
so I was close.
It's pretty good. Pretty good math by Joe Rexrode there. So I have called this tonight a must-win for the Nashville Predators. Like, with LA's schedule being what it is, LA's got Vancouver twice. They've got Calgary once. I think they got Edmonton to close out this week. Like, when you got the Canucks twice on your schedule in the last 5 games, that's a pretty good thing if you're an NHL team out there. Like, the Predators need to win tonight. And I understand it's the second half of a back-to-back, and you're probably going to be starting your backup goalie, but you got to find a way to come out of there with 2 points tonight if you're the Preds.
Yeah, and Gentry does not seem, too optimistic about that. Obviously, not 100%, but you're going with your backup goalie, logically speaking, and again, that's not a bad thing for this team. That's one of the things that's helped this team get into the position they're in. Just still having a chance to get in the postseason, and as you have said, this is where you lean on your big dogs, and look, those guys are playing well too. Like it's a good time to lean on them. I mean, certainly like the Forsberg Stamkos combination. I mean, obviously O'Reilly. These are the guys who are going to probably deliver it if you get it.
For sure, and it's they've gotten 5 out of 6 points on this trip. It's been a good road trip so far, right? But this is where they're at with the standings. Like, it's going to require them to. They can I think you could still feel. You can feel okay about it, basically, if you lose one more game, right? Like, if you lose one more game in regulation, you're still going to have a shot. Like, you lose a couple more games in regulation out of this next 5, you're probably not getting in. Like, that's just where you're at right now with the standings. And that's why the math is what it is. I mean, it factors in not only the Predators' quality of competition that they're going up against, but like LA's got a relatively easy schedule coming up down the stretch here. There are other teams that are making it interesting behind them right now. Like, Winnipeg's on fire, and Winnipeg is pulled within 2 points of the Predators in this. So, like, that part of it is pretty interesting. San Jose's right behind them with 81 points. So, the math right now is against you. All you can do is win. Like, just win a game tonight. That math goes up. Win a game Saturday against Minnesota. That math goes up. So that's where you're at. Like, if you're the Predators, you're basically approaching every game in the next 5 here as a 1-game season, right? Like, you got to pour every ounce of energy you got, which at this point right now, having played their 3rd game in 4 nights coming up tonight, may not be a ton. You got to pour whatever it is you got. You got to pour it out there tonight, and then let the chips fall where they may coming up Thursday against Utah.
Yeah. Matt from Cannon says, honestly, what's the benefit of the Preds making the playoffs? I feel like there's no benefit. Well, I think anybody who's been in Bridgestone watching this team and seeing some good hockey, some good performances, some big wins would probably like at least a shot to gather in that place and cheer for a win over the Avs, right?
And look, and by the way, like, people are acting like the Avs are 82-0. Like, the Avs are good, and the Avs will probably beat the Predators in a playoff series, okay? Like, it is what it is, and I will definitely pick the Avalanche to beat the Predators in a playoff series. But, like, they're not like some unbeatable team. Like, they really, the last 25 games, they've been okay. Now, that is, a lot of that is probably where they are in the standings. And I know McCarr's been out lately, and he's going to be back for the playoffs. So all that factors into it. But what I'm saying is, it's not like, this is Hofstra taking on Alabama football in the NHL. There is a chance you can go out there and play and compete. That's what the benefit is. And at this point, you're already, we've gone over this. You're hiring a new general manager. The direction of the franchise is going to be determined by him, whoever that next hire is that you make. That ain't changing between now and then. So just go. Go try to win.
Exactly. Joey from Gallatin. Can't win in the playoffs if you don't make it to the playoffs. That is true.
That is very true. That is very true. Stamkos got his 39th of the year last night, so he is knocking on the door of another 40-goal season. Forsberg knocking on the door of a 40-goal season. Yossi got on the board last night. It was just a bad start last night. That's what really doomed them. And they got down 1-0. I think they had 4 shots on goal in the first period. It wasn't very good. So going to have to require a better start tonight against Anaheim. But you got Anaheim twice coming up down the stretch here. This is a huge game. And like you said, this is another situation where you're taking on a relatively young team in the Ducks, particularly with some of their big-time players. A lot of young, big-time players who I think are going to be a problem that you're going to have to deal with for a while in the Western Conference. But, Joe, it's basically the same thing I said with San Jose. You look over the next 5-6 years, Anaheim's probably going to be a big problem that you have to deal with. Right now, your veteran players, this should be a moment where you step up and get a win. This is what you need to go do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it may be different trajectories long term, but you have some advantages now.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts to get to on the Predators. We'll take your thoughts on the Titans. Any way you want to take it, coming up next. Phone lines wide open. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by Green Ventures Landscaping. Property managers, if you manage it, they maintain it. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com. We are taking your thoughts on the Predators at 615-737-1025. Let's head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Bob in Antioch to the program. Bob, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys. The last 10 to 15 games of the season have been about as pressurized as you could possibly get. How do you feel that the Predators' young players have performed in this stretch, and are you encouraged about their future?
Yeah, thank you for the call, Bob. Appreciate it. I mean, I would say on the whole, pretty well. There have been – look, I think – and there was another one last night, on a play that I think led to LA's second goal that wasn't the best from Ryan Ufko. Like, I think Ufko's got some work to do in the defensive zone. I like a lot of what he brings to the table offensively. And he's young players. I'm not worried about him, but I just think you're in high pressure, big time game situations right now. I think the last couple of weeks, Zach LaRue has taken a step forward. Like, he's scored a couple of big goals, some of which haven't counted. But like I said, a really nice goal the other night that he scored in the LA game. I think that was last Thursday. He's moved up in the lineup. Like, I think LaRue is starting to come along a little bit. Like, Svechkov, since he got back from Milwaukee, I think has been better, right? Like, so, it hasn't been perfect. It's not like it's been without mistakes from these guys, but I think they're getting better. I mean, we've talked a lot about Matt Wood. I think Matt Wood you're feeling pretty good about right now with the way he's playing. But on the whole, like, I think you're starting to see some of these guys take some steps forward. Now, guy like Kemmel, like, I think there's probably more you're wanting to see, and at some point he's going to have to take that step. But on the whole, like, I feel like they're playing well. It's not like those guys are driving them right now, because you look at the big games that they're playing, and it's O'Reilly scoring the big goal against San Jose, right? Like, Stamkos is fine in the back of the net. Forsberg is fine in the back of the net. Yossi with a goal and an assist last night. So it's still your veteran guys that are driving the bus right now. But I like some of what I'm seeing on the whole from some of these young guys, Joe.
Yeah, they definitely wouldn't be in this position without him. There's some encouraging things going on with some of these guys. I think it was Brunette who told it, especially in the right after the trading deadline time, when of course people are, not feeling great about everything. You get that, you get some guys who get opportunity, and then you kind of get a burst of energy from that too. And then, of course, at the same time, you're still going to lean on these guys. Now they got it going. They got a little bit of a roll going, and the veterans, of course, are driving the play.
Yeah, and I think, if they're going to get in here down the stretch, the veterans are going to have to be the one that drives the play. But I think LaRue's a perfect example. Like, in that game, the veterans are the one driving the play, but LaRue makes a huge play in the game. Like, you need your rookies to step in there, make one or two plays in the game that help drive you towards that finish line, right? Like, I thought in the Tampa game that they played on the road, whenever that was, a week and a half ago, they lost the game. I thought LaRue in that game was one of their best players. Like, I think he looked really good in that game. So you're seeing some of that happen, kind of organically here with the way they've shuffled their lineup around. But, I mean, the bottom line is, if they're going to get in the playoffs, and certainly if they're going to do any damage once they get to the playoffs, it's going to have to come from, Stamkos and Yossi and Saros and Forsberg and all those guys. So that's going to be what it is down the stretch here. I do think you start to, as we never separate ourselves too far from the long-term conversation with this team. We talked a lot yesterday about Brady Martin, right? And the prospect pool. Well, I do think you start to look at next year's team and you say, okay, well, Matt Wood centering a line with like Forsberg, or who knows, Stamkos, however you want to structure it next year. Well, that's going to happen, right? Like, Matt Wood is going to be one of your top two centers when things start next year. Like, LaRue. To me, LaRue is probably a third line guy. And there's nothing wrong with that, but he's probably a third line guy. What I've been waiting for on LaRue is, can you break through with some of your offense at the NHL level? Like, I think there's this perception around him that he's like some, goon out there,
right,
like some fourth line grinder. And he's a first round pick. Like, he's more talented. Yeah, like, he's a first round pick. And look, nobody's ever going to confuse him for Connor McDavid or anything like that, but you're talking about a guy that in Milwaukee this year had 28 points in 28 games, right? Like last year, before he got called up with Milwaukee, he had 48 points in 66 games. Like he got some offense to him. I mean, you go watch the goal he scored last week. A lot of patience in the slot, moves forehand to backhand, makes the play. Like he's got, halfway decent hands out there. So he's up to 3 goals this year. He's got 3 goals in 20 games. I still need to see the offense come probably a little bit more from him than it's come to this point in his career. Is that going to happen? If it does, then I think he could be a really effective, middle 6 guy for you for a long time. But we hadn't really seen that take place yet in the NHL.
Yeah. But you can see. I mean, you can see the skill, and that's been the case with him. Ultimately, at some point, it comes down to what can you actually finish? Can you actually produce? But I think there's definitely some hope there and some promise. I mean, you've got a few guys here that you can definitely project ahead as being in the lineup, being key guys. Again, it's just some of this is going to come down to like exactly how good, Matthew Wood, you're right. I mean, he's going to be key. Like, but what's the ceiling? How good is he? How much of a jump could he make next year?
Right.
And, I mean, look, they're in a playoff chase right now, but either way, barring something shocking, they're going to be done pretty soon playing hockey. And it's natural for people to think about next year too. And like just how it's going to look in kind of an in-between year, but also the start of a new era because you're going to have a new GM.
Well, that's part of why the Wood thing continues to be such a big talking point because, I mean, if you think back to the beginning of the year, they basically needed a young centerman to come in and fill a role that Svechkov tried to fill and he couldn't do it. Like earlier in the year, he wasn't ready for it. And frankly, like I said, I think Svechkov has played better since coming up from Milwaukee. But to me, barring just an unbelievable, him hitting another gear, like to me, Svechkov's never going to be a top 6 player. Like he's not a top 6 caliber player, which is fine. Like it's not like everybody has to be a top 6 player, but to me, that's what makes the emergence of Wood all the more important is they were hoping Svechkov could turn into one of those middle 6 guys for you earlier in the year. And, maybe he does at some point. But the fact that Wood has stepped into that now and you're feeling good about, long-term him at center based on how he's played there to this point, you needed somebody to take the reins. And it looked for a while like nobody was going to do it this year at center. And that's what makes the Wood thing, I think, all the more of a big deal.
Right. Because then if you're going to end up with Wood Martin as a long-term, strong pairing down the middle, that looks different than it's been for a while around here.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. More of your thoughts to get to coming up next. 1025 The Game is teamed up with Pella Windows and the Nashville Humane Association for a puppy pet adoption this Friday at Pella, 256 East Main Street in Hendersonville from 4 to 6. For more details, just visit thegamenashville.com/events. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Join 102.5 The Game and catch the biggest golf tournament of the year at 5 Iron Golf, located at 202 21st Avenue South in Nashville. 102.5 The Game will be broadcasting live all day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. this Thursday and Friday. Stop in, enjoy great food, golf, prizes, and more with fellow fans from start to finish. Don't miss it, only at 5 Iron Golf. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Big one for the Preds tonight, taking on the Anaheim Ducks. Joe, you are in Indianapolis. You will be making your way back to our great state here very shortly. Michigan gets it done last night, 69-63, the final score. Not a very good shooting night for either team. Michigan was at 38%. I think UConn was like 32% from the game. Ugly game out there, but Michigan caps it off. They get their first championship in 37 years. Joe, what did you make of the game last night for the national championship for the Michigan Wolverines?
In the last few seconds, Alex Karaman's shooting a 3 down 4, and I'm like, this has not felt like a good game at all. And yet, if he makes this, I mean, you're fouling, and even if they make both, you have a chance. But the shot was horribly off. The teams were 11 for 48 combined from 3. That's 22.9%. That's the second worst ever in a championship game. The Butler UConn game of 2011 was 22.7. That's about what, it was an ugly game, and it was a bad Final Four. It's always a great tournament. Tournament's always great. That we had some great moments. Braylon Mullins beating Duke was that's a moment that will live on from this tournament. Some tournaments don't have things like that will always come back. That one will, but Michigan was a great team. The best team. I mean, their best was the best. Duke beat them on a neutral site. Maybe we got robbed with that Mullins shot of like a great title game. Duke Michigan rematch. Maybe that would have been the great game that we didn't get. But Michigan was dominant in this tournament, dominant all season. They didn't lose a road game. I mean, that's incredible, all right? And they play a lot of tough road games. It's a really good team. So they were, to me, like once they kind of took the lead, they were always in control of that game. I thought it was going to get to a 20-point kind of game for a while. But, again, give UConn credit. They're tough. They're a super tough team. And so Danny Hurley doesn't become the first coach since John Wooden to win 3 in 4 years. Michigan now is a program that has multiple titles. It's a short list of programs. It's I think it's only about maybe 16, 17 programs that have more than one championship. Michigan now joins that group. And Dusty May is just like Danny Hurley. I mean, these are two of the best young coaches in the game, as long as we can count late 40s, early 50s as young. I hope we can.
Sure we can. I mean, that fits the mold.
I'm young too.
That's good stuff.
That's great. We're all young.
What do you think Mike Malone going to North Carolina as head coach?
Man, would not have been on my list, would not have been someone I thought of at all. I mean, North Carolina now doing the pro coaching. The pro coaching can work. I mean, I thought Billy Donovan would have been interesting and probably more exciting for North Carolina fans. I don't know what to think of it. He's, of course he's going to get the resources, although, Belichick's going to get his too, but I mean, he's going to get resources. North Carolina is desperate to, obviously to turn this thing around, but it also shows you, like Tommy Lloyd from Arizona, thanks but no thanks. Dusty May from Michigan, thanks but no thanks. TJ Otzelberger from Iowa State, same thing, early, thanks but no thanks. I don't know what would have happened if they would have gotten. I think Mark Byington wasn't too far here, down the list, and who knows how that would have gone. But I don't know, man. It doesn't excite me, but he is a good basketball coach.
NBA champion.
So if he can get a roster that like anything like that Nuggets team, then boy, I like his chances. It's just so hard to know. I think Carolina had to go outside the family. They had to do that, but yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, just North Carolina in general with Belichick and Malone is going to be very interesting in the next year.
Apparently his daughter plays volleyball at North Carolina. So maybe it's not going outside the family. She was already there.
Yeah. Well, so there you go. You got some
Big Tar Heel all along.
Well, got to pay some tuition, so that's good. So now he's got a little bit of skin in the game. So yeah, no, I don't. It's when I heard that a couple days ago from one of my coworkers, I was like, what? Really? Like they're looking at him, because I kind of thought that maybe it was going to be, go to Byington, and then the Donovan thing's weird, But Chicago fired their front office, which is a terrible front office, I guess, to make him feel better about staying, I guess. So, but I mean, it has not gone well for him there. So, yeah.
How long's he been? Like Billy Donovan's been the coach of the Bulls since 2020. It's a long time.
Yeah, I think it's a 6 year. Yeah, and one playoff appearance? I think.
Yeah, they won 46 games one year. That's about as well as it's gone.
Yeah, he's stuck in and again, it's been like it's like their GM, it was bad.
Yeah,
and it's been fun to see from afar. So hopefully they don't figure it out.
They're going to keep playing.
Chicago's Bulls suck. America's better for it. What's up?
They're going to move the Bulls and the Hawks to Indiana too. Just get everything out of downtown Chicago.
Yeah, maybe and build a nice arena in Gary.
Cubs going to go play in South Wisconsin.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That place is a lot of weird stuff going on up there in Chi-Town.
Are we giving up on the dream of the White Sox one day coming here? The Nashville White Sox?
It definitely has quieted down, I mean, I think that there's something to, the idea. I wouldn't bury it, but supposedly, they're gonna. Are they building a new state? I don't know. I mean, so now that you bring it up, no, I mean, I don't
bring him here.
Yeah, it's possible, man.
Let's do it.
Justin Ishbia, Vanderbilt graduate.
That's right.
Just saying.
That's right. That's going to do it for us today on the program. Rexrode making his way back to the great state of Tennessee. We'll be back at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Jake Lyman coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.